Hello, this is Faith at Faith and Books, and I am going to talk about a few things and basically do a wind-up of January. And instead of doing separate reviews of the last couple of books I've read, I am just going to put them together in this video. But the first thing I want to say is I'm really thinking about changing my channel name. I'm thinking of changing it to A Garden and a Library, or maybe A Library and a Garden. But it's from that quote by Cicero, and where something about happiness is all you need in life, or all you need to be happy is a good library and a garden. And right now in my life, I'm really focused on those two things, reading and gardening. And I just think that might be a good title, maybe a better title for my channel. So I don't know, what do you think? Should I change the channel name? I changed my blog name to that just recently, just a few months ago. And then I decided I didn't want to blog anymore. So maybe I'll move that title here. I did a search on YouTube and I couldn't really find any other booktube with that name, I don't think. So I think, I don't know, I'm tempted to do that. So that way I won't feel bad if I suddenly show you a gardening video or if I'm talking about gardening books. I won't feel like maybe I'm imposing on people. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing is I'll just give a couple of reviews of books that I read. And I read all these books on my Kindle, so I don't have a nice thing to hold up. But the first book that I read on my Kindle was called, now the title won't come to me, it was called How to Save the World from Your Backyard Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys. And it was by this guy, Paul Wheaton, who's well known in permaculture circles. He started a big permaculture, what do you call it? What's the word for it? Website where everybody like chats about, oh boy, I can't remember. But he started a website where people can go and chat. And it was also co-written by another guy named Shawn, Klassen-Koop, something like that. It's a hyphenated name. And he helped Paul Wheaton, settle down and write this book. But it's mostly from Paul Wheaton's perspective. In fact, it's written in first person, except he says in the beginning that anytime it's actually Shawn's opinion, they'll make a note, and I think that happens once in the book. It's really Paul Wheaton. So Paul Wheaton, from my understanding, is a sort of larger-than-life character. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I found him to be a hoot. I mean, he is funny, and he really thinks outside the box. He might have an overblown good opinion of himself, but I thought it was fascinating. I really enjoyed the book. I couldn't put it down, and it's a permaculture book. Paul Wheaton is a certified permaculture consultant or whatever, and he lives out in Montana, and he's just thought of all these different ways that you can make changes in your life that really help, mostly environmentally, but also he's concerned about food security and the quality of food and living a simpler life and that sort of thing. So lots of outside the box ideas, even for permaculturists and like homesteaders. For instance, or environmentalists. So one thing is he really doesn't believe the LED light hype, and he goes into why. And there's a lot of other interesting, he just has a different perspective on things, which you might not agree, or you might think, never thought about it that way. So it was a fun book to read. I enjoyed it a lot. It was really, really particular to being a single man living in Montana. That's basically, some of the ideas might start you thinking about how you could problem solve in your area and maybe reduce your use of electricity or whatever. But it's just getting you started. It's not going to give you real solutions. And that's what he said. He said they made the book brief because they couldn't get into too much detail, or the book would be, would be volumes. But I think they were a little too brief, frankly. I was a little dissatisfied. But it was a quick read. It was really interesting. It was fun. So I'm glad I read it. I thought it was worthwhile. So that was one. That was the How to Save the World in Your Backyard instead of getting angry at bad guys. I love the title. The title's so good. And then another book that I read that I just finished this morning on my Kindle was Beatrix Potter's A Life in Nature by Linda Lear. And this one was a more academic book. It kind of put me off at the beginning because it was kind of a little bit too, not that it was high academic, but it was a little stiffer or more formal than, say, reading David McCullough's John Adams, or that didn't have that flow. But once I just persevered, and once I got used to it, I got really into it. And Beatrix Potter is just fascinating, and she is a woman after my own heart, and I'm on such a Beatrix Potter kick. She was really, not only did she started off being into, she had these domineering parents. If you ever saw Miss Potter, the movie with, what's her face in it? Renee Zellweger, whatever her last name is. You know the story of how she had these domineering parents, and she sort of took refuge in painting and having these little pets, hedgehogs and rabbits and that sort of thing for pets. And that's sort of how she escaped her home life. And then as she got older, she was kind of going into spinsterhood, and first she got really into studying mycology or fungus. Like, she started from painting toadstools and that sort of thing and observing it. And then she got really into the science behind it, and she was really influenced by this particular Scottish naturalist. And so she got really into it, and she started doing actual hardcore scientific studies. But she didn't have a degree, because she was a woman, and and so I forget the name of the British Society that kind of wouldn't let her in. She did get one guy to sponsor her, and so her paper did, on this particular aspect of a particular fungus, it did get presented, but nothing ever happened to it. It was kind of ignored because she wasn't an official scientist and she was a woman. So that was kind of frustrating for her, but it took a lot of courage. I think she learned a lot, and she's a really keen observer of nature. So then from that, she moved in. She really wanted independence from her parents, who were very, very manipulative and domineering. And she was the dutiful Victorian child that was, going to take care of them in their old age. And so she winds up, she would write, her nurse had married and had a couple kids, and her cousins had kids, and other friends of the family had kids. So she would write these picture letters to them, where she'd do these lovely little paintings, because that's what she liked to do, and write little stories to them. So she started turning them into books, and that's, of course, the story of Peter Rabbit. And that's how she meets Norman, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, Farne, Farne, I think. And he was the publisher that finally took her book. She got rejected at first, but then they finally decided to take and publish her book, and it was an immediate hit. And so over the years, it took about 5 years or something, a really warm, close relationship developed between them, and he asked her to marry him. She said yes, and then tragically, a month later, he died of leukemia unexpectedly. But she had made a lot of money from these books, because once she did Peter Rabbit, they kept demanding more, and so she would put out 2 a year for quite a while, for quite a number of years. And they were so popular, and she also was really savvy as a businesswoman, so she did all these spin-offs, like dishes and, all sorts of stationery and all sorts of tie-ins to Peter Rabbit. And so she made a lot of money, and she took that money and she bought a farm, Hilltop Farm, in the Lake District near the town of Near Surrey. And And so she's like part-time farmer. She would go, she hired someone to manage it, but she would go there and be really involved with her farm for a few weeks. And then she'd have to go back and take care of her parents. She'd have to go on vacation with her parents, and then she would try to get to the farm again. And that went on for a while. And then finally she got to move to the farm altogether. And she was fixing up, and it turned out she was really good at land management, and she loved farming. She loved gardening. She loved, animal husbandry. She loved all that stuff. And she was really into preserving the Herdwick, so how it was said, Herdwick sheep, which was this particular type of sheep that they had in the fells of the Lake District that was kind of going out of style because the wool, it was really good for carpet. It was really, really rugged wool, but like other manufacturers in other countries had sort of taken over that industry. But she wanted to really preserve, because it was unique to that area. So she wanted to preserve the sheep. So she became like a breeder. She won awards. She got really into conservation. She started buying up land. She was really good friends with a guy who I think he started, or he was like one of the founding members of the National Trust in England. So she got really into land conservation. So she was really, environmentalist pioneer. Really interesting. She lived to 78 or so. I just finished the book. I don't remember how old she was when she died, 78 or 79, right in 1943. And she wrote in a letter that she really wanted to live long enough to see Hitler defeated. But anyway, and also she had married late in life. She married a man slightly younger than her solicitor. And she was very happily married to him. And she was always busy. I mean, she was really involved in lots of stuff. Really interesting book. I love Beatrix Potter. I just love her energy, and I love her values, and I love what she did with her life. And I'm just really enchanted by her. So I'm gonna keep reading about her. And one day, I made my husband promise, one day when COVID is over, he's gonna take me to the Lake District, and I'm gonna go see her house and everything. I can't wait. So that was the other book that I read, Beatrix Potter, Her Life in Nature by Linda Lear. And then let's see, what else is going on? The thing I still need to do is finish up my Oscar Wilde. So today's the 30th, right? I want to finish by tomorrow. I want to finish up. I only have a few short stories. I find with Oscar Wilde, his stories are really, really charming, and I can read one or two at a time, but if I'm reading too many at a time, they quickly lose their appeal to me. I just get bored somehow. Even though initially I started off being really, really charmed by it. So I don't know. Maybe that's with most short stories, that it's hard to read them just one after the other because there's kind of a sameness about them. Anyway, so I do still have to finish up this book, and then I'll have met my January goals. So I'm pretty proud of my reading. I was reading so slowly, and in January I read The Hilltop Mystery, the Hilltop Farm, what is it called? The Cottage Tales of Beatrix Potter. I read that book. It's a cozy mystery series about Beatrix Potter. Oh, and it turns out Linda Lear, the woman who wrote Beatrix Potter, A Life in Nature, is friends with the woman who wrote those cozy mysteries based on Beatrix Potter. And that's why they were so realistic. They're really, I think that really contributes to how good they are. Or at least the first one. I don't know about the other ones. And so let's see. So I read that. I read the Seneca on the Shortness of Life, and I read the first in the Amelia Peabody, Crocodile on the Sandbank. I read that. And so I think I read 5 books in January, which for me is really good because I was really slowing down there. It was getting pretty pathetic. And I'm probably going to be slow in February because I am committed to 2 read-alongs in February. I'm going to read The Brothers Karamazov. This is the Barnes & Noble edition. I got the other one, the Everyman's Library, that was complaining about how small the print is. This is slightly bigger, so I'm going to try to read this one. And if it's too small for me still, I might go and get the Bantam, because Alan at Lonely Bookshelf said that he has that one and the print is nice and big, even though it's really fat because it's more pages. So I might resort to buying that one if I can, because I really want to read it physically, and I want something where I can mark up. I want to feel like I can mark it up. So anyway, so that starts February 1st, and then also, where is it? Oh, The Dead Secret. This is the Victorian Book Club, and it is for February and March. Both of these are for February and March, by Wilkie Collins. And again, I didn't like this print, so I got it on my Kindle, and I think I'm just going to read it on my Kindle. I don't care so much about Wilkie Collins. Brothers Karamazov, I do. I didn't want to read it on my Kindle because I wanted to be able to mark it up. And I think that's about it. I'm sure there was other stuff I meant to say. Oh yeah, and I have to say that I'm really enjoying this Read a Bible in a Year podcast. I get up every morning, and over my coffee, I listen and read along. And it is the #1 podcast from Apple or something, on Apple in the country. Like it beat out NPR and other things. It's really lovely. We finished Genesis and Job. We have read, I think, 12 Psalms, and we've read up to Proverbs 4:20 through 27. And now we're into Exodus and Leviticus and more Psalms. So it's really good. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm so glad that it came at a good time in my life. So I'm really glad that I decided to do that. And the only book that I bought recently, I can't remember what I bought in January. I'm sure I bought these, right? I got this geeky book. The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments, using locally sourced materials to make mineral and biological extracts and ferments. Hey, this guy's an aerospace engineer, but he's also a garden hobbyist, and he came up with all these amendments. And my soil in my garden is really depleted. I know I need phosphorus because the leaves turn kind of a red, and that's a sign of phosphorus. I have to, a depletion or a lack of phosphorus. So I have to, I really need to amend my soil. So I've started listening to these podcasts now. And this is the result. I bought this book when I heard this guy interviewed, Nigel Palmer. So it's funny that so many of the people who are into permaculture are engineers, like they're computer engineers or they're aerospace engineers. I think it's because it's got so much problem solving in it. Anyway, so I think that's it. I think I'm going to stop there because it's already too long. So I'm excited for February. I'm on Discord for the Brothers Karamazov. That's really fun. I saw the live stream, and that was neat. I missed Kate Howe's Victorian Book Club meeting because just at the same time we were doing something. My youngest sister was ill and in the hospital. She's out now. She's okay. She survived. It's wonderful. But it was kind of tense, and we were doing something else at the time, so I couldn't meet with Kate Howe's group. But anyway, I'm really enjoying BookTube, and I'm looking forward to reading the Brothers Karamazov and The Dead Secret. And maybe I don't know, will I fit other things in? I'm not sure. But we'll see. All right, so that is it. I babbled on for 19 minutes here, so I will let you go. I hope you're doing well, and happy reading. Bye-bye.